Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday, Friday, Junior indeed. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Heat. Welcome, Michael Hassler. How's it going, everybody? Whew. It is almost Friday, folks. Welcome to see you too. Hello, hi, howdy, welcome. Appreciate that. Welcome, Michael Hassler. Thank you. Folks, if you haven't done so, please consider going to the YouTube and keep liking and subscribing to the stream. I appreciate it. Thank you. Join the Discord, folks. We gotta get started. If you want to support the channel, there are many ways of doing so. You can continue to help by liking, sharing the stream, spreading the word. We are here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow us on Twitch. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can consider checking out the merch store by hitting exclamation mark. Not hitting, typing exclamation mark merch. Cognizant, welcome. I appreciate the lurk. Thank you. Folks, we got a ton of stuff to go through, so let's get started. Hey, remember yesterday how we watched this cringy speech by that NFL player? Yeah, it got worse. I've been seeing this make the rounds, and honestly, it tracks so much that I believe it.
Republicans.
Whoa! Hey, oi! That I actually believe it. Everyone is taking what I said out of context. All I said was that we should go back to a better time, like the 50s and 60s, when men were men, whatever that means, question mark, and women had more babies than thoughts. When the only Me Too movement was one woman saying she was ready for her fourth child, and another woman agreeing. Now, like, given this guy's past, I honestly would not be surprised, because like this is so on brand for what what this dude has said in the past, what he's said about the LGBTQ community. I mean, like this makes so much sense if this was true, that I honestly believe it. Yeah, dude doubled down, and then on top of that was like, you know what? Hand me the shovel. I'll dig myself. Like, no f's given whatsoever. But again, this tracks. If you've ever, because I had to take like a moment to kind of, hey, how's it going? I've had to actually take a moment, to look up this guy's history, and he's definitely said some things, huh? Yeah, hold my beer, indeed. All right, give me 1 second, folks. It's so quiet. Yeah. Sorry about that. So yeah, as I was saying, like if you've researched what this guy was what if you've researched what this dude has said in the past, there is music. It's just very, very low. Um yeah, like if you pop your headphones in and kind of really really squeeze them in there, you can hear the music, but it's very low. Um Anyways, yeah, if you've researched the type of quotes, this guy has said it before, it's rather apparent that this makes perfect sense. Um, Last tweet we're gonna go over. Folks, I sorry. This stream may have to be cut a little short. Um Give me 1 second. I got yeah, exactly. Hush up and kick. Oh yeah, we got Mrs. Truth's we got Mrs. Truth's dad. So just give me 1 second, folks. We'll definitely finish this. But the stream may be shorter than I expected. Mm. Got some blueberries. Mm. You know, Walmart, by the way, on okay, Walmart has better fruit than the actual grocery store. Their blueberries are definitely better than the grocery store, than the chain, because like all we have are chains. The Walmart blueberries are actually pretty decent. Yeah. let them have a chance to talk about you behind your back. Yeah, let's do that. Last tweet we'll go over. Intellectual titan and professional centrist Tim Pool, after ChatGPT projected Trump is tracking to win 2024, and asked it to factor in the 4 a.m. vote shift. Which, what does that even mean? Like, first of all, this is so absurd on its face. It doesn't even make sense. Because, like, what do you mean by factor in a 4? Like, I think that honestly, you're giving it a hypothetical, and I don't think Tim Pool is I don't think Tim Pool's given us the complete picture. I don't think Tim Pool's given us a complete picture. Like, he could have typed in on ChatGPT like, "Hey, calculate the possibility of you know, a Trump presidency, but we get a influx of fraud at 4 o'clock in the morning," and then ChatGPT is like, "Well, if that happens in these swing states, then Biden would win by such and such electoral votes," right? Like, that's how that's how it most likely was the input, because this makes zero sense. This makes absolutely no sense. The way he's portraying it. It says conclusion, because he doesn't really want to show you. He doesn't want to show you what he actually asked ChatGPT. But it says that based on the adjusted hypothetical vote shifts at 4 a.m. in the swing states and current favorability among independent voters, the electoral vote projection for 2024 would be Trump at 263 with Biden at 275. Firefly, welcome. This projection indicates that Biden would win the election with 275 electoral votes compared to Trump's 263. This analysis does remain hypothetical and assumes that the shifts observed in 2020 would happen similarly in 2024, which may not be the case. Actual results will depend on various factors, including voter turnout, change in voter preference, and other dynamics leading up to the election. Yeah, like, or he may have just, he may have just asked it to, like, to actually calculate, like, the election results based on mail-in voting that would be counted the next day, or something like that. Because, like, the whole point, just to be clear, like, the whole point of making a post like this is to fan the flames, right? The whole point of making a post like this is to put gasoline on the floor. Does that make sense? No, it may not be like this at all. It may not be like this at all, actually. But the whole point of Tim Pool making a post like this, with the implication, because there's obviously, like, no context here except the small screenshot of the conclusion of what he may or may not have asked ChatGPT. I don't know what he actually asked it. It's not clear what the parameters were that he asked ChatGPT. But that's not the point. That's not the point. The point being is that he does this on purpose. He's absolutely doing this on purpose with the goal of putting gasoline on the floor. And again, in the event that there is a Biden victory, and the Biden victory is incredibly slim, which could technically happen. It could technically happen if Biden wins the election. It will be incredibly small by an incredibly small margin. If Biden wins the election, it will be very, very close. And he's doing this to rile up the cult. And if violence does happen in that in our hypothetical, make no mistake, people like him will be responsible. Him and people like him doing this kind of stuff to pour gasoline on the floor will be responsible. He knows exactly what he's doing here. He knows what exactly we call this stochastic terrorism. He knows exactly what he's doing here. Radical centrist, professional fence sitter, Pim Tool. You know, I really wish there was some type of, like, I really wish there was some type of freaking way to hold these people responsible in like a legal sense, because, like, you know, it's all of these working in conjunction to rile up people that will inevitably result in violence. Not just because I'm saying it, just because that's what happened. Man. Hey, the Simon Locker, you can easily get ChatGPT to tell you 1 + 1 is 5 if you want. Right, and, like, and to put that as with the sole purpose, because, like, you know, obviously it's not even clear what he asked ChatGPT, but that nonetheless, the fact that he put it there, and he put it for the purpose of saying, like, look, this election is going to be rigged already. We're 6 months out, and we're already talking about, you know, rigged elections again, and how, you know, fly-by-night votes are going to happen, and they're going to give Biden the victory. We don't know that, okay? We don't know that Biden's going to win the election, okay? But that's not the point. The point is to rile up the right and put gasoline on the floor. What Tim Pool is doing is pouring gasoline on the floor and talking about how cool matches are. Does that make sense? That's what he's doing. He's pouring gasoline on the floor and talking about how cool matches are and how people can play with them and how people can find matches if they wanted to. That's what he's doing. Now, on the other hand,
he's still going to be the next president. So let's get into the latest news in our ongoing. Look at the polls, everybody.
You just watched The Daily Show's audience boo Jordan Klepper for predicting that Biden will lose to Donald Trump in November. Now, I get that nobody wants to grapple with the prospect of a second Trump term and think about what that means for marginalized people and American democracy, but let's face the facts. If the election were held today, there is a solid chance that Biden would lose to Donald Trump. So Jordan Klepper is not wrong. And tuning out that reality isn't going to make it go away. But it seems like a lot of people would rather bury their heads in the sand.
Not just a lot of people. I think liberals. I think we're talking about liberals. I got that same response in the Rational National YouTube chat. What, boo? Yeesh. Yikes. It's like you can't conceptualize reality. Like, it's all fun and games. Like, you know, this is like one of the problems that I was having, well, that I still have with what I'm seeing coming from the libs, from the liberals. You know, they talk about how they're conscious about facts, like hard facts and reality. And sometimes, yeah, that's true. But you know, it's incredibly infuriating when you have facts and hard data that kind of counter, you know, your worldview, or you know, it makes you uncomfortable. That truth makes you uncomfortable. All of a sudden, they start to divorce themselves from reality. Hey, Read and Rap, how's it going? Libs are going to lib. I had looked at the data and evidence. There's strong evidence to suggest that he could lose. That's right. I mean, like, it's the trend. The trend is not great. It's not good. It's not great. Salty bread is good. Welcome. What is happening here? Not good, not great. I don't envy the candidate choices you have in your elections. Yeah, well. Salty bread is good. Like sourdough? No, wait. Is sourdough salty bread? Salty bread. Salty bread? I'm not going to dispute that salty bread is. Oh, it's fermented. Gotcha. Give me 5 reasons why Palestine should be free and why socialism is good. Here, I'll give you just one. Moron. Sorry, I'm not going to sit here and justify why people should be treated like human beings, why people should have the right to self-determination, and why people should have the the right to not be freaking bombed into like bombed out of existence. Yeah, give me 5 reasons. Shut up. I'm not going to sit here and justify why people deserve to live. Anyways.
And not think about that right now. And I think that that's fine if you're just a regular person and that's your way of dealing with traumatic political news. But that mentality right there becomes dangerous when influential people do it. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the Daily Show's audience members booing Jordan Klepper there. But if, say, somebody with influence reacts in that way, that's where things can go south pretty quickly, even more so than they already have. For example, Joe Scarborough reacted to swing state polling conducted by Siena College that was published by the New York Times. And this poll shows Biden losing in 5 of the 6 battleground states.
Yeah, which we went over that. Biden right now is down in the in 5 swing states, which again, it's still incredibly close. But that's not good. When has that ever been a favorable position for the Democratic candidate to be in, right? That was nowhere near the same type of results that we saw in the last election and in the 2016 election. Yeah, exactly. The Biden campaign, the Biden campaign is just not. They're just not. I wasn't very knowledgeable about the Israel-Palestine ordeal before the conflict. I didn't think it was too bad to strike back after the October attack because of the hostages, but then they just went totally genocidal and didn't care about hostages at all. Yeah, like or again, they're two supposed goals were to go after Hamas and to bring back the hostages, and they've done neither. In fact, they've done the exact opposite of those two. They've done the opposite of those 2 goals. But anyways, yeah. But the Biden campaign is not there. You have to ask yourself at this point in time, with 6 months to the election, you have to ask yourself, like, is the Biden campaign even interested in winning the election? Like, are we going to get any type of fight from the Biden campaign? Like, are we going to see some type of shift? Because if not, it just makes me feel like the Biden campaign or the whoever's running the Democratic campaign, it's just not. They're just not there. They're just not there. They don't want to win, because if they did, like I remember seeing this. I don't know if it was you, Firefly, but somebody, or maybe I saw it on a tweet, something to the effect of like, if the Biden, like, ask yourself, if the Biden campaign was actively trying to lose, like, what would it look like, or what would a winning strategy look like from the Biden campaign, and then ask yourself, why aren't they doing it? Does that make sense? I don't think Biden is able to campaign. He's simply too old.
And Joe Scarborough basically had a meltdown in response because, according to him, the New York Times has been releasing garbage polling with flawed methodology, and they are purposefully doing this, according to him, so they can generate clickbait articles about.
Well, hey, if you find that polling is flawed and the methodology of the poll is wrong, then freaking point out what's wrong with it and why we should disregard that particular poll, and that's fine. But what is the trend of how things look? What is the trend of that? Because, like, burying your head in the sand, it doesn't ignoring reality does not make it go away. You looking at Biden's bad numbers, and consistent bad numbers. It's not like you had like one outlying poll that was like, oh, Biden's doing really bad in like all these swing states. But it's just one poll. You can kind of, I would say, fine, but it's not just one poll. You know what I mean? You can't just disregard the consistent answer from different polling as well. I mean, it's the Times, but it's also Morning Joe. Both have biases, right? And that's fair. If you want to say that, oh, okay, we're getting polls from like a more right wing, center, then fine, we're going to see a more right wing bias. Or if we're seeing polls from the Times, you're going to get a more liberal bias. But like the overall trend doesn't lie. The overall trend doesn't lie. I know what you're trying to reference. I said something a few weeks ago, but I don't recall exactly how I phrased it. Yeah. Okay, so it was you. See, I remember. It was something to that effect. Like, think about what a winning strategy would look like, and then ask yourself why the Democrats aren't deploying that, or in this case, the Biden campaign not deploying that. Because the problem is very, 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 very apparent. This is not a secret. This is not some kind of unlocked mystery of the universe as to why we're seeing, as to why the Biden campaign is seeing the numbers that it is. This is not a mystery. But yeah, see, I remember. So something to that effect. And you know what? I think that's true. Because it's one thing, you can try to chalk it off, but it's been months. It's been months, and there seems to be no indication that the Biden campaign wants to actually deploy the strategy that would be a winning or that could be considered a winning strategy. They're not outreaching to the people who would ostensibly vote for them. They pretend like they care. They pretend like they care about the Democratic base. They pretend like they care about their younger voter base, which, by the way, is incredibly important. If a Democratic candidate is going to win the election, they need that base. This is non-negotiable. We saw what happened in 2022. We saw what happened when you have all of these groups come together. You need all of these people to vote for you, or else it's not going to happen. It's just that simple. Kamala joked about running for governor of California if she loses. When? Like, dude. Phenomenal. Way to really give away the game, huh? Teehee, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. I'm just gonna go and try to be a governor of California. And because I'm also wealthy and powerful, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I lose. It doesn't matter if Biden loses. I'll be fine.
How Biden is losing. Let's watch.
The New York Times right now is actively shaping the election cycles where this poll comes
Actively shaping the election cycle. True.
out on a Sunday, and on Monday people go, oh, and I heard it. And I'm sitting there going, oh, don't be so stupid. That's why we're doing this.
So what's your theory? What's your theory about why?
No, hold on. What I hear is after these Siena polls come out, every time New York Times poll is, oh, well, everything that Joe Biden's done since the State of the Union address, all this money that he's put out, all of the campaigning is for naught. No, it's not. No, it's not. There's one poll that's wildly skewed.
It's not one poll. Again, it's not one poll. That's the problem. You can chalk it off if you want. You know, if you want to stick your head in the sand and try to blame one poll, you know, fine. You do that, I guess. But the reality is, it's not one poll. Didn't we literally just go over freaking a poll not that long ago saying that that Biden was losing other swing states as well? I think it was like 6 swing states. I think it was like 6 swing states. Not that long ago. It was a couple months ago, wasn't it? Or maybe a month and something ago, that Biden was losing. You know. Almost all of the swing states. Remember, Biden does watch this show. Yeah, that's true.
Every time. Okay. And it does shape, if it's a New York Times poll versus a Morning Consult poll, and the New York Times then amplifies it 15, 16, 17 times, it warps reality. And everybody responds to that in the media and in the political world. It completely changes the political battlefield out there for about a week, week and a half. It distorts the questions that are asked of the White House. It distorts the questions that are asked of Donald Trump. It distorts all of the opinion. It distorts everything.
It does not. I don't see why people are so surprised with how close the polls are that Biden is losing. Trump won once and he could win again. Right, and it's very close. It's very close. At this point, it's like Biden is trying to lose. I think that the Dems should have primaried him against Jeffries. What? Against Hakeem Jeffries? I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Anyways, the Emperor's new clothes is him winning the election. I think these libs are just windbags and acting panicked for us to witness. They aren't concerned. Both parties are going to protect the other because they're in the same class. They will protect their shared class interests from their seats of power, no matter which party is in power. It's a way to continue to manipulate. Yeah, like if Donald Trump wins the election, do you think like Joe Scarborough is going to be freaking distraught? Do you think that Joe Scarborough is going to be affected in any way, shape, or form? Yeah, I'm picking up what you're throwing down. Yeah, like people like Joe Scarborough. So what if Trump wins? He's going to be just freaking fine. Joe Scarborough is incredibly wealthy, and you know, nothing's going to happen to him. Anyways, yeah, I think Hakeem Jeffries has a better chance to win than Biden. Maybe he should have run. Maybe at this point, I don't know. It doesn't really matter, I guess. Hypothetically, if we had an actual primary, and we had an actual duked out primary, and somehow Hakeem Jeffries would have won, would he do better against Trump? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I suppose it's possible. At this point in time, I think any Democratic candidate would have done better against Trump than Biden at this point. So maybe you are right, Dirty Bird. Maybe you are right. Maybe Hakeem Jeffries at this point in time would have actually ended up being in a better position, or literally any other Democratic candidate would have been in a better position. But yeah, even if the worst happened here and Ish went truly fascist, they would just flee the country. Right? Joe Scarborough is incredibly, dude. Joe Scarborough probably has like if not, like, he probably has access to like a private way out of here, and will be gone by the time like the first decree comes down the pipeline. Like, dude, people like him, people who are incredibly wealthy, they're gonna be just freaking fine no matter what. Joe Biden wins or loses, it doesn't fundamentally matter to somebody like Joe Scarborough.
And that keeps happening every month when this comes out. And then finally, about 2 weeks later, after the residue of the New York Times Siena poll leaves, people go, oh, I think Joe Biden's on a winning streak. And then 2 weeks later, it comes out again, and it's garbage. So
maybe it's almost like the election is incredibly close. Yeah, Joe. Yeah.
It's an outlier. And yes, the New York Times, when they have all of these experts questioning the methodology, when they're calling like 20% of the people likely voters who have never voted before or didn't vote in the last two primaries, when they're even quoting people who said they're switching their vote from Joe Biden who have never voted before, I'm sorry. The New York Times has to know what they're doing.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, but to give you some additional context, they also quoted some pollsters on Twitter who discussed some flaws that they found in the methodology with the New York Times.
Yeah, which is fine. It may be the case that this one poll was flawed. What does the overall trajectory tell you? Or the overall aggregate of the data tell you? Right? It's quite possible, and I believe that maybe this poll is flawed. Yeah, sure. I can completely buy that. But what does the aggregate of the data show you when it comes to the polls right now? If Joe Scarborough were honest, he would see that the polls are actually very, very. It's a coin toss. It's a coin toss. What truly scares them isn't the other party; it's the other class, the working class, rising up, and that's what keeps them up at night. 100%.
Times poll that they were all discussing. And they also looked at other polls like this one, which shows Biden ahead nationally by 4 points, although the margin of error is within 6 points, and they did mention that to their credit. Now, Joe Scarborough expressed frustration about the fact that the New York Times didn't write a single article about that poll, but they write articles about the polls that show Biden doing worse when they're both polls published by the New York Times. So it must be the case that they're trying to push the election in a certain way or create a sort of narrative, and they're not actually interested in learning the truth. Now, I think it's fine to question the methodology of individual polls, assuming you know what you're talking about. Yep. Most people don't. Joe Scarborough does not, by the way. But to answer his question as to why they would choose to talk about the swing state polls and not that poll that shows Biden doing favorably nationally.
Right, because they're essentially insinuating that there's a little bit of a panic behind the scenes, assuming that I'm talking about mostly like the Biden campaign, that it doesn't look good. People get stuck on all these gotcha arguments and just ignore everyone else. Yeah, everything else. Yep. It's almost like the polling company is fixing the numbers with psychologically tuned questions. Maybe or maybe not. Again, what I say is you can question the methodology of this one poll, which is fine. And I don't even care for the poll, because like on a aggregate, when you mash a bunch of polls from a bunch of different places, you kind of get the trend of where things are going. And, if you want to, take a poo-poo on one poll, that's fine. It's not going to dramatically change the aggregate of what we're looking at here. And what we're looking at is not good, not great.
Speaking. And it's because that poll doesn't matter. The presidential election, unfortunately, is not decided by the popular vote. It is decided by the Electoral College, which is why the media disproportionately focuses on swing state polling as opposed to national polls. But they do focus on national polls, too. It's not like they're disregarding it, but for him, he has an axe to grind with the New York Times because they publish all these polls and only focus on the ones where it shows Biden is doing bad. But they're focusing on the swing state polls because if Biden loses the swing states, he loses the election. Furthermore,
Right. So if anything, that would probably prompt or should prompt, like, again, this goes back to the same question. Like, you know, you have to wonder if the Democratic Party wants to win the election. Because, like, if you have to, it's not like this is a secret that the swing states are are in danger. I'm sure the Biden campaign knows this, right? I think Trump will win the election. His campaigning is just so much better. I don't know if it's so much of the fact that Trump's campaigning is much better. It's just that it's the 2016 phenomenon. As weird as it sounds that we're talking about the 2016 election, it's the same 2016 phenomenon. You know, the Democratic Party decided that the best bet here is to repeat the same strategy and hope that Trump buries himself with one of these felony cases or something like that, instead of actually being proactive and giving people something to vote for. They're just basically putting all their chips on Trump being a bad candidate and running off the hopes and running off the thoughts and prayers that people will hate Trump more, and Biden wins the election, right? But this is an absurd way of running a campaign. Comparatively, Trump, let's not sit down and actually listen to what the constituents who potentially might vote for us want, because we can't do that. Comparatively, Trump's campaign is quite a lot better. Now, I'm not saying as it's an exceptional campaign, but it's better than nothing. Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose Trump's campaign is there. Whether or not it's better, I don't know. From a political standpoint, I don't know. Maybe I need to watch more Trump ads or something. I don't know. But it just seems like Trump's campaign is the same, right? The radical left are destroying America. There's an invasion at the southern border, and I alone can preserve the blood of this country. Yeah, white man, vote for me. His plan is horrible and fascist, so I guess if you're into that, yeah. But it's not like he's running like an exception. I personally don't think he's running an exceptional campaign. He's just doing the same thing. He's beating the same drum because his cult will follow. It doesn't matter. He's talking about the same thing. Trump is up there because he's always in the news for what does not matter. Being loud seems to get votes. Maybe. The depravity speaks for itself. They aren't outright saying it, but the way Dems ignore the constituents feels like the deplorables again. Yeah, it does, and it's incredibly annoying, because it's not like we're sitting here like trying to be friends with the Democratic Party. It's just like man, you're acting as turnkeys to straight up fascism, and as it turns out, I don't like fascism, and it's incredibly infuriating. All while pretending to be the good people. All while pretending that they're the ones that are on your side. I think that's what makes me even angrier. Yeah. Has Biden held any campaign speeches? I'm not American, so I don't follow these things that closely. Good question. Has Biden started doing like campaign rallies? I don't know. I don't think so. Trump is taking over all the oxygen of the news. Yeah, that's true. But with good reason, right? He's currently facing trials. So all of this, he's talking. So people are going to note that, especially since he's a candidate for president and presumed the candidate for the Republican Party.
Polling isn't perfect, which is why it's important to look at aggregate polling data to gauge where the country is at.
Thank you.
And based on polling averages, right now, it's not looking too good for Biden.
Thank
Even
you.
nationally speaking, Trump is ahead by more than a point, according to Real Clear Politics.
And again, being ahead 0.% or 1.1, whatever, that's not a lot. That's still a statistical tie. That's still a statistical tie as far as I'm concerned. As far as data is concerned, not just me, but whatever. As far as the data is concerned, that is a statistical tie, and it could flip at any point, 0.1%, one way or the other. But that's never a good. That's never a good position for the Democratic candidate. Whenever you see polls like this, that never favors the Democratic candidate. That's not good. Yeah, newly announced. Debate is late June. Well, I think I heard, I think we went over the article yesterday. June 27th is the first debate as far as we know. If anything changes, I'm sure we'll update on that. He's screaming like a baby and no one can ignore a screaming baby.
Averages. Now, nationally, Biden is doing better because he's probably going to win the popular vote, but still not doing too great. When it comes to swing states.
Yeah, again, like, hey, didn't we have, hey, I remember this story, you know, like that meme, the meme where he's like snapping his fingers and pointing. Yeah, hey, you know who else won the popular vote but lost the election?
States. In Arizona, for example, Trump is ahead in polling averages by 5.2 points. In Nevada, Trump's ahead by an average of 6.2 points. When it comes to Wisconsin, Trump is ahead by an average of 0.6 points. In Michigan, Trump's ahead by 0.8. In Pennsylvania, Trump's ahead by 2 points. In North Carolina, Trump's ahead by 5.4 points. And in Georgia, Trump's ahead by 4.6 points on average. This is what aggregate polling data is telling us. So it's not just polling from the New York Times and Siena College that shows Biden isn't doing too well. Sure, you can question their methodology because they do skew more negatively for Biden, but that doesn't change the fact that all polling paints a pretty clear picture. This is a very close race. That's what the polling shows.
Yeah, and that's what I said. That's literally what I said. A famous saying goes, there is no such thing as bad. Yeah, no such thing as bad publicity. Yeah.
And it's currently leading towards Donald Trump. Now, that can change, and Democrats have been overperforming polls since people are galvanized by the issue of abortion, but that's not a guarantee, and wishful thinking isn't going to change the current situation. And
yeah, exactly. Like, putting literally what I just said, okay? I promise I didn't watch this video, okay? I promise I didn't watch this video. You can't just run your campaign on thoughts and prayers that the dude is so bad, that Donald Trump is so bad that he literally trips over himself and shoots himself in the foot and loses the election, right? Like, you can't. That happened already. Okay, I really don't get why your electoral college is a thing. Me neither. It seems so weird to me that a candidate with the most votes in total can still lose. Yeah.
Trajectory that.
Just don't look into the history of the Electoral College too much, okay?
We're currently on. But during his rant, Morning Joe admitted that it's preposterous to think that all of this money that Biden is spending on ads and campaigning isn't moving the needle, which is why he's choosing to just not believe the polls. But that's a very naive way to look at things, and it's problematic because Biden is reportedly obsessed with Morning Joe, and it's his favorite show, according to Axios. And as David Dole puts it, Joe Biden is watching his favorite show every morning thinking he's doing great and there's nothing to worry about. And that right there is incredibly dangerous because rather than reflecting on what he may or may not be doing wrong, his favorite pundit is reinforcing all of his bad ideas. His favorite pundit with cognitive dissonance, no less. And he's saying, look, you don't have to change a single thing. The polls are wrong, not you. Keep campaigning the way you are and you're going to win. Now, that hubris right there from Democratic Party elites is how Trump won the first time, and it'll be how he wins again if that doesn't change. Now, other Democratic elites, like James Carville, for example, isn't necessarily raising doubts about polling per se, but he's also very perplexed by the fact that Trump is doing so well according to polls, despite the insurrection and indictments. And here's what he had to say.
And Trump's more ahead than he's ever been. Fewer people think January 6th was any kind of what it was, is an assault on the temple of democracy, the Constitution. I don't know what the fuck you want to say. It's going the wrong way. It's not working. Everything that we're throwing is spaghetti at a wall, and none of it is sticking, me included. And it's hard when you start in your 80th year. And you know, like anybody else, I have an opinion of myself. And the opinion I've come to is, I don't matter. It doesn't matter. You can prepare, you can be on TV, or you can write pieces, you can have a YouTube channel, you can have a podcast, and nothing. And, you know, we gotta try to think of something different, because what we're doing is really, really not working.
So, like Joe Scarborough, he's confused because nothing he's saying or nothing Biden is doing seems to be working. Now, if you've been following James Carville over the past couple of weeks, he recently released a video badgering young people for not supporting Biden and said that if democracy dies, it's on them. And I agree that Trump is an existential threat to American democracy. The problem is that if we've learned anything over the course of the last decade or so, it's that voter shaming and badgering voters doesn't actually work. The onus is on the candidate, not voters themselves. But everybody is pretending as if this is so complicated and it's this
He took his hat off.
puzzle that we have to figure out. But it's not rocket science. Every single election is going to hinge on whether or not the Democratic Party is able to mobilize their own base. If they do not excite young people and people of color, then they need to register enough new voters to make up for that deficit.
This is the Vanish holster right here. It is arguably...
Oi.
This is the determining factor in every single election. Federal, state, local, it doesn't matter. It's always about mobilizing their base. And if you look at the headline from the New York Times poll that Joe Scarborough was screeching about, well, it confirms that. Trump is leading because young and non-white voters are not satisfied with Biden. The question is, why? And do we even have to ask that question? Because I think it's obvious. He refuses to stop supporting Israel's genocide in Gaza. In fact, his administration is moving forward with another $1 billion in weapons to Israel, even though the State Department admitted that Israel is using their weapons in violation with international humanitarian law. So Biden is violating domestic and international law to supply weapons to a regime doing an ethnic cleansing and a genocide in Gaza. That right there is the problem. Young people and non-white people are abandoning him because they don't want to support that. They don't want Trump to win, but they feel as if their votes for Biden is their endorsement of his support for genocide. But don't take my word for it. Listen to Harry Enton, a CNN analyst who breaks it down very concisely.
Yeah, Nikki Haley voters are not going to vote for Biden.
Let's look at the choice for president in 2024 among Biden's 2020 voters, all right? Because I think this sort of illustrates sort of how Biden's getting pushed a little bit. So if you like Biden on the Israel-Gaza war, look at that. He's getting 87% of the vote. RFK Jr. is getting 8%. Donald Trump way down here at 4%. But if you dislike Biden, if you disapprove of the job he's doing on the Israel-Gaza war, look at this. He's getting just 50% of that vote. My goodness gracious. These are people who voted for him last time. RFK Jr. is getting 20%. This is just a 30-point margin compared to a 79-point margin among those who approve of Biden on the Israel-Gaza.
I was a Nikki voter. Now I don't want... first of all, I was a Nikki voter. I'm sorry to hear that. Now I don't want to vote at all, to be honest. Probably for the best.
This is a huge dividing line within the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and that huge dividing line, like let's be very clear. The 2020 election wasn't a friggin' blowout. Just to be very clear. The 2020 election wasn't a freaking blowout. Biden didn't like sweep the election, okay? And now you're putting, the 2020 election was close because of the swing states and how the electoral college works. Oh my God. More or less, I said that the Dem Party just doesn't block leftward movement. They actively chase the Republican Party to the right. When in power, the Dem Party's controlled opposition's job is to have strategic losses by helping the right achieve goals for them, even when they are not actively in power. That benefits both their class interests. I feel like that's always going to be the case. Definitely, because their class interests are to protect capital or to uphold capital. The times that the Dems do win and give us crumbs of progress in between losses is the riot tax to release the pressure buildup to keep us from revolting. Yeah, I think that is a acceptable line of thought in my opinion. Wasn't there a big thing about waiting for Arizona to decide the election? I'll be honest. It took a moment because there was a lot of votes that were being counted in different states. It was down to a couple of swing states. This wasn't like some kind of huge, Biden swept the 2020 election. That's not how that happened. And even then, like, just to put it for context, the 2020 election, it was one of the highest turnouts we've had in 100 years or something, like some absurd thing. Do you think that that's going to happen again? At least that's how it's been for a long time. Now this is just getting a bit unhinged. Yeah, and I think that's probably why, more and more people are open to that, because it's absurd. We're at crossroads, and I think people are looking at it, are realizing it, I should say.
And that's something, of course, we're seeing right now between the progressive wing and those more centrist or mainstream Democrats.
And as a confession, we're such nerds that occasionally Harry sends me some of this data. And the number that jumped out here, RFK at 20% among people, Democrats who voted for Biden in 2020 and dislike him on the Biden war. I think your next slide points to a little bit of what's going on here.
What exactly is cooking? Why do they dislike Biden on Israel? Okay. America's support for Israel is. Now, this is among 2020 Biden voters who are currently not voting for.
Yeah. Again, these are your base who are literally telling you what the problem is. This is like about as clear as it can possibly be. I never ever would have ever thought a Dem POTUS or administration would be overseeing and supplying a modern genocide. But here we are.
So it's those those disapprovals. Take a look here. Do you believe that America's support for Israel is too much? The clear majority, 60% of those folks who are currently not voting for Biden, but did last time around, say that America's support for Israel is too much. Just 24% say about right. You get this 4% who say not enough. But this group is double the size of the about right and not enough combined. And a lot of those folks at this particular point aren't necessarily going for Donald Trump. They're going for RFK.
I got to say that not enough is...
I would say they're just going to stay home, but I guess some will go to RFK. I don't know. I don't particularly buy that last piece of the analysis. I think I think most people, the overall majority of that 60% is going to stay home or just vote down ballot, in the local elections and vote in the constitutional amendments or ballot initiatives. That's what they're going to do.
Virtually nothing here.
Which, by the way, I would 100% advocate for. There are still things in the ballot that you need to fill out. There are ballot initiatives. One of the few things that you can still do as one of the few direct democratic tools that you have are those ballot initiatives and state constitutional amendments. So pay attention, because those I would advocate. Please pay attention to those. If you're in the states that that pertains to, or local elections, also.
In general, what is Biden's support among those who were with him before?
Yeah, This, I think, is the key point. Biden versus Trump 2024 poll margin. The reason Trump's ahead, he's holding on to more of his base right now. That 2020 voters leading by 81 points. Biden's just holding on.
Yeah. So Trump's cult is not going anywhere. Okay.
On winning among that group by 73 points. That's the story of this election. It's why Trump is in much better position than he was 4 years ago.
So, I mean, it's pretty clear. That right there is why Biden is doing so poorly. He is losing his own base, whereas Trump has been able to hang on to more of his base, which isn't surprising. I mean, Republicans are going to support Trump no matter what, whereas that's not the case with Joe Biden. Democrats have to hang on to their base if they want to win elections. When they lose their base, they lose elections. And I think that at this point, unfortunately, it's too late for Biden to get back the voters that he lost because too many people have died, right? There's been too many women and children that have been indiscriminately slaughtered, and they're not going to forget that. So what Biden should be doing right now, if he wants to win, is, even if it's futile, try to win back those voters he lost. But he also needs to mobilize non-voters and register enough new Democrats to account for the ones that he's losing. He's not doing that. Instead, he's trying to make up for the deficit by courting disillusioned Republicans, much like Hillary Clinton did back in 2016 when she lost progressives. But that strategy isn't paying off, and his attempt to run to the right on issues like immigration, for example, isn't persuading them to get on board, which is predictable because both data and studies show that center-left politicians adopting right-wing policies don't actually entice conservatives, and if anything, they alienate their own bases when they do shit like this. So the only option for Biden right now, the one path to victory, is to stop supporting a genocide and try to win back some of the voters that he lost.
Like the Hail Mary, okay, the Hail Mary that Biden can throw right now, assuming there's still even time for that in terms of, again, this is just all politically, like political strategy, because I just don't think Biden cares. He doesn't care about humanity, it seems. But just speaking strictly on political strategy, like the last Hail Mary that Biden has is to basically do that and then sell himself as a look. I'm a candidate that can be pliable. I'm a candidate that does eventually that can be pressured. That's the literal last Hail Mary that Biden can possibly do, is to stop supporting this ethnic cleansing, and then say like, well, yeah, I mean, I can be pressured into doing things, whereas a Trump administration would not. That's literally the only path, assuming that there's even a lot of assumptions, but assuming that there's even enough time to sell that, and people believe that, yeah. At least Trump is old and won't be around for another 40 years in politics. Yeah, but his base and the way the Republicans are doesn't give me much hope either. I'll give Biden this. First time in his political career, he stood his ground on an issue. Too bad for him, he was wrong. Yeah, but unfortunately, what he stood his ground on is ethnic cleansing. We know he can, but it's too late. Yeah.
Or he can keep doing what he's doing, keep supporting genocide, and sacrifice American democracy. Also, an Israeli fascist can commit mass murder in Gaza. I think that's a pretty easy choice, if you ask me. But even though these pundits seem dense, make no mistake about it, at least the Biden administration knows what they need to do, and they've chosen to not do that. Biden is literally protested everywhere he goes, and the DNC is already preparing for disruptions from anti-genocide protesters at the DNC convention, which is why they're considering more pre-recorded speeches to avoid a repeat of the 1968 DNC convention, where thousands of anti-Vietnam War protesters protested inside and outside of the convention, and of course all hell broke loose once police arrived and were unleashed on the protesters. Things got violent, as they tend to when you unleash police officers on peaceful protesters. And by the way, Richard Nixon ended up winning that election, the Republican, for those too young to know, because as is always the case, when Democrats abandon their base, they lose. It was true in 1968, it was true in 2016, and it'll be true in 2024 if nothing changes.
Yep.
Now, I get that their heads are all up their own asses, but they know this. They're pretending like they don't know this. They know this. Biden knows this. The writing is on the wall, and they see it, right? Even if they're pretending to not see it and they're feigning ignorance, They know what they're doing. But Biden has chosen to risk it all and gamble with American democracy to keep supporting Netanyahu's genocide. This doesn't mean it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to lose, because a lot can change between now and November. But pretending as if he's not in danger of losing is incredibly stupid, in my opinion, especially if you're Joe Scarborough, because the reality is that he is in danger of losing. And it's not the polls. It's just a fact that Biden is a very weak candidate doing very bad things to alienate his base. And if he doesn't do a 180 immediately, he's going to lose this election. You can't blame young and non-white voters for that, and you certainly can't blame the fucking polls for that. You have to blame Biden, because he knows what he needs to do but won't do it. That's on him and nobody else.
Yep. If Biden loses this election, it will be Biden's fault. End of story. Like, there's no arguing that. End of story. That's it. If Biden loses this election, it's his fault. Period. Where do I even begin? Because I don't even have enough time for this, folks. So I guess we'll just scramble through this. Funny how our growing hyper-militarized police force population can't seem to find the border where there's thousands of dangerous caravans pouring in, but they sure know how to find college campuses and get there faster than EMS. Oh yeah, of course. That's what's important. Beating protesters, beating anti-genocide protesters. That's Biden should not have been a candidate to begin with, in my opinion. Yes, I made the same argument. Biden, so just to be clear, Biden wasn't supposed to be a candidate. Biden said himself he was going to be a transitional candidate. He was going to be a one-term president. Biden's one goal and one goal only was to defeat Donald Trump, get him out, and that's it. That was his one job. And that's it. Knowing that the Democratic Party should have prepared serious candidates to be ready in those 4 years that they've had, and be ready to present, the list of candidates. And we should have had, what we should be right now is in the middle of a robust, or towards the end, I guess, of robust and healthy primary. But here we are. Yes, I've made this argument before. Biden should not be a candidate. We shouldn't be having this discussion. Anyways, yeah, sorry guys, I really have to go. So I'm just gonna zoom by these. The Supreme Court has rejected a broad challenge to the Consumer Protection Bureau, so that's cool. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau lives to fight another day. This is a unexpected decision by the Supreme Court, but I support it. So that's cool. Speed round, let's go. Yeah, that's right. Ron DeSantis signs a bill that strikes climate change from state law, because apparently when you strike the climate crisis off state law, it disappears. You know the saying, no, Cognizant. You know the saying, Florida's going to turn blue one way or the other? Yeah. That meme is the one that comes to mind. It's like a picture of the rising sea level, and then like the caption is like, Florida's going to turn blue one way or the other, or Florida's going to turn blue eventually, something like that. Yeah. That's what comes to mind. North Carolina banning face masks in public, even when used for medical reasons, because, reasons. The North Carolina State Senate voted along party lines to ban anyone from wearing masks in public, even for health reasons, because go F yourselves, apparently. Yeah, it's pretty asinine. This is also asinine. If you're in North Carolina, yeah, not good, not great. We'll see if this House bill ends up passing. But that doesn't look very good. And I think that's all the important articles. This is not important. I was going to go over this, but yeah, I ain't taking my mask off. I was gonna go over this, but we can maybe go over it later. I'll post this one link in chat, and I gotta go. I gotta skedaddle. All right, folks, I gotta head out. Thank you guys for hanging out, even though it was a shorter stream than normal. Sorry about that, folks. We'll be back Monday. Thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it. Thank you, Firefly. Thank you for all of you that are hanging out. Cognizant, salty bread is good. It is. Michael Hassler, thank you for modding the chat as well. Dirty Bird Distiller, thank you for hanging out and mixing it up in the chat. Heat, thank you so much for modding and mixing it up in the chat. Let's see. Read and Rap, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Carpet Packs, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, folks, we got to head out. I appreciate that, and I'm sorry I'm cutting the stream a little shorter than usual. As always, folks, oh, don't forget, join the Discord and subscribe to the YouTube channel, okay? That's important. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next stream Monday. Bye-bye. Man, I thought I banned you. Get out of here. Thank you, Heat. I appreciate it. Folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.